Echols is in the black and white. And Quillin is in the red, white, and blue. And Antwun Echols, a 3-time world title challenger. In 2000, TKO'd against Bernard Hopkins, was hit in the back of the head, penalized for throwing Hopkins to the canvas in that fight. In '99, they had their first meeting when Echols lost a 12-round unanimous decision to Hopkins. He actually got to Hopkins early in that fight. Most recently, Anthony Mundini fought for the 168-pound title in 2003. But since then, he has taken some damage, and we'll see what he has left here.
And you know, we always say, or I always say, that fighters are not really judged. Their age is not judged chronologically. It's judged by the amount of punches they've taken. Now, Echols is 35 years old, but he's a fighter that's taken a lot of punches. And you just wonder if it's going to show tonight. That not being scored a knockout.
Wipe of the gloves, back to action.
And the thing that shows when a fighter starts to get long in the tooth, and starts to be in the ring too long, is their legs don't stand up well. And I don't think, and I said it the last time, Echols has strong legs on the ring.
No, we noticed that the last go-round. If you charge him hard and test him, you may see a little wiggle down there. Now Echols is complaining.
Keep him up.
And you can catch Echols saying he got hit low. And you can catch Echols now in a lot of ways. One, you can catch him with right hands over that slow jab. And that's exactly what the strong young Quillin's trying to do. Also, you can catch Echols as he goes back, Joe. He will go back straight, and he will go back with the hands low.
Stop stiff arming, Antwun.
You know what? Quillin has that in his mind. As he sees Echols go back,
just like that,
he's going to step with him.
Peter Quillin, the undefeated 24-year-old based out of Brooklyn, looking to make a splash here in his first main event on ESPN.
Well, the first thing that stands out to you when you see Quillin is his size. He's big. Big, strong, young.
Fills out that middleweight frame well.
And he has power. And he looks like he's fairly calm and in control of himself in that ring in the biggest moment of his life.
6'1", checked in at 162.5, a lunging left hook, came from about halfway across the ring there.
I've said the positive about Quillin. Let me touch on what I think may be a little of the negative. Yeah, he has a great body, great size, great length. But sometimes he too willingly gives up that great size and falls into the smaller man's punching chambers.
The unbeaten.
Hello?
Mrs. Anderson. Action from round one. This was ruled a slip. As you saw, a left hand came in and that right foot gave out on Echols as he came forward. The right hand did not make contact there. But a very strong opening round for the 17-0 prospect Peter Quillin in the red, white, and blue. He had an 18-3 connect advantage against the veteran Antwun Echols.
Step back. Stop holding me. Come on, let's box, fellas.
The Echols only landed 8% of his punches thrown in that first round.
Oh, shot. Stop pushing down on the head and hit.
Echols has not won in his last 5 with 3 draws in there. And again, you see him pull straight back. And you see Quillin step with him.
Quillin with a right hand there. In this crowd, New York-based fighter in a big setting in the Big Apple. They're ready to explode with everything that Quillin puts forward.
No, usually I won't go to the emergency status so early, but I will here. I think Echols needs to hurt Quillin in this next round or two to have any kind of chance to slow down a very confident and very strong Quillin.
Step back.
That's the one advantage that Echols has enjoyed throughout his career is one-punch power, the ability to really dig in and make a difference in a fight. And you're saying he really needs to earn the respect of Quillin and make it so that Quillin doesn't charge so easily and so confidently against him?
Yeah, start making Quillin think about what he's in there with, which is a fighter of a higher status, a higher level than he's ever been in there with before. Start making him be cognizant of that and thinking a little bit. And while he's thinking, then maybe there's hesitation. And if there's hesitation, maybe Echols then Well, he doesn't have the great legs anymore under him, but maybe he can use that great experience and navigate a little.
Came in that time. The right hand didn't do it, but a short left as Echols ducked his head to his right side. There's a good combination, and a left hand backs up Antwun Echols. And now we'll monitor those legs of the 35-year-old veteran.
Again, when people get old, their hair gets a little gray, their skin gets a little wrinkled. When fighters get old, their legs get rubbly. Echols' legs are looking rubbly.
Quillin, a couple more headshots, scored well there. Echols has been a target for him the past 30 seconds here of this second round.
Now, I must say, Quillin is helping Echols a little bit by being a little over-anxious. Giving up that height, falling in, getting out of position with his feet, not keeping good balance, and looking for one shot at a time. He's not using the jab to keep Echols stable where he could set up those big shots. He's looking for one at a time too much.
Quillin got to him in this round.
What we were talking about earlier, here's a good example of it. Echols goes straight back. Quillin follows him, and he lands the right hand. The most significant punch was the right hand, and that would make sense, Joe, because the left hand low of Echols.
Fine-looking New York-based prospect in the red, white, and blue, Peter Quillin, 24 years old, 17-0. Goes by the nickname of Kid Chocolate after one of the most popular fighters in this era, back in the 30s, the original Kid Chocolate, who was also of Cuban heritage, much like Quillin. Quillin has been very thoughtful of the fact that his mother suffered a stroke a year ago, and he thanks God that she's still with him today. Very likable young man. Got a taste of his personality earlier tonight in this broadcast, and he thinks he can make something of it in this middleweight division. But this is a test for him. Toughest test he's faced so far in his career.
Now here's an opportunity that we talked about in the fight plan, where Quillin can maybe stand his ground a little bit, use that height, and he has great size, great height. Maybe make Echols miss, and then come right back and nail Echols. Echols plays with fire a little bit, because after he throws, he doesn't move right away. He waits to see if you're going to throw back before he moves. And by waiting, at the age of 35, his reflexes just might not carry him. He might be a little late, and the punch might be on time.
And working behind the jab is Echols. To the inside he goes. Big sweeping right hand missed, but the left didn't.
And again, the same situation that Echols continues to give Quillin an opportunity with. He goes straight back, and when he goes straight back, he's very vulnerable.
Both men open up with right hands. Echols tries to get around that left guard.
Now, I've given the first 2 rounds to Quillin. I think most people watching this would feel the same way. But again, I think that Quillin doing Echols some favors by giving up that height, by giving up that size, and falling inside to the short Echols, and to an Echols who can still bang.
Right lead that time.
You can see that Quillin still hasn't learned the art of being able to stand at a certain range and be tall and be able to stay at a distance that's good for him and not good for his opponent.
Coming to the end of 3, Echols and Quillin. Classic is going to offer up some boxing this weekend. You're enjoying Wednesday night fights here. Of course, we have Friday night fights. And then you can tune in on Saturday to see Thomas Adamak against O'Neal Bell in their 12-round cruiserweight #1 mandatory eliminator. That is live boxing, the ESPN Classic, Saturday at 6 Eastern. It's also available on ESPN360.com. So 3 nights of live fights on the ESPN networks this week. Of course, Teddy and I will be heading to Miami, Oklahoma tomorrow. Get ready for Friday Night Fights heavyweight main event between Johnson and Smith. Quillin 43% of his punches landed so far in this fight. Peter Quillin is in the red, white, and blue, 17-0 against the three-time world title challenger, Antwun Echols.
You know, when you're in that ring, there's so many things you're trying to accomplish. Of course, you know, when you're in that ring, there's so many things you're trying to accomplish. Of course, you're trying to set up your opponent so you can land more than he can land. But you're also trying to maneuver a little bit and get your opponent off balance. Try to take little steps back, maybe get your opponent to, you know, trip up a little bit, reach in a little bit, misgauge where you are. But Quillin does a lot of that, getting off balance to himself. You know, Echols doesn't even have the pressure of having to work those little traps and those tricks to get Quillin off balance. Quillin, you can see it right in front of you. They reach in, they get off stride. And there again, you can see a good example of it. Quillin's going to climb up that boxing ladder. His people need to work on those fundamentals. And one of them, as fundamental as it gets, balance.
Come on, let's stop holding the box. Come on.
Echols puts a right hand to the body. Speaking of body shots, how about the body shots this weekend in some of the featured fights on Saturday night? We're going to get Teddy's take on Margarito Cintrón and Cotto Gomez coming up at the end of this round.
And again, the legs do not look stable underneath Echols, but he's getting a little help again. Not from his friend, but from his opponent, Quillin. Quillin slowing down the pace a little bit, not making the 35-year-old, maybe a little shop-worn fighter, not making him work. Not making him pay a price, not putting more damage on those legs. Also, Quillin throwing one punch at a time, Joe. An experienced fighter, boy. They love to see that. One is a lot easier to deal with than 2, 3, or 4. Right. Even at 35, you can use your experience to get away from one.
But that is the big factor in this fight, the experience edge for Echols. There was last time we saw Echols fight, we started to think, okay, he's fading, and then that experience kicked in, and he found the second gear. See if he can do so tonight against Quillin as they come to the end of round number 4. Echols shakes that one off. Joe and Teddy with you here at the Hammerstein Ballroom, and not far away. A couple good fights down the road in AC this past weekend. The rematch of Margarito versus Cintrón. And Tony Margarito, boy, he kind of picked up where he left off when they met a few years back, didn't he, Teddy?
Yeah, I guess it did. But, you know, I'll say it right now, you know, for full disclosure, I picked Cintrón. Of course, that would be an upset pick, but I picked him. I thought he would mature. I thought he would get seasoned. And that body shot, of course, does damage like it did the first time. But, Joe, I thought that from that experience, and since then, he would have grown up a little bit and gotten more seasoning and been able to handle the pressure a little bit better. I think he handled the pressure a little better. A lot of people can argue with me, but not enough for the kind of guy that he had in front of him, coming at him so quickly. And I think his technique failed him. I got to be honest with you, because when you look at Cintrón, he stood straight up, he pulled straight back, he laid over on the right where he ate right hands. His technique was not there the way it needed to be against a guy like Margarito, who was getting into punching range and letting those hands go. So, yeah, maybe the seasoning, maybe the lack of experience, you know, maybe the mental part betrayed him. But the technical part, that did not help him. That really shocked me, how poor he was technically.
Wrap up on Margarito Cintrón as we are in round number 5. Antwun Echols and young Peter Quillin, who's the Brooklyn-based fighter, who's created quite a fan following here in New York. In fact, there was a interesting article in the Post about Quillin, about his love for pets. He has a gray parrot from Africa, a python named Miami, a long-nosed lizard, and a little bearded dragon. And then, after all those exotic pets, he goes and recently adopts a little kitten.
And I hate to throw into this category. He's not going to love this, but also he has a manager named John C., who happens to come from where I come from, Staten Island, and who happens to be a young manager who I think will be good for this business because he cares about fighters and he's passionate. And he's not going to love that I compare him, I threw him in a category with lizards,
lizard, dragon, and
a little kid.
I'll tell you what's good for the boxing business is an unbeaten prospect fighting in his hometown in a setting like this. We have a few thousand people here right in the heart of Midtown Manhattan, and these are real movers and shakers in Midtown Manhattan. Top dollar, top-notch, private invite-only charity event, getting a taste of an unbeaten New York-based prospect. That can only do well for him down the road.
No, I agree with you. It's good to be able to build those kind of venues. Any venues where you just revigorate the interest in this great sport. And again, I think Quillin really helping out the old man. I know Echols doesn't want to be called an old man, but you know, in a punching sense or a fighting sense, you've been in as many tough fights as this warrior has. You're not really young anymore. But Echols, plenty game. He's always been that. Plenty of experience. And again, Quillin looking for one shot at a time, not fighting consistently, giving Echols the kind of pace that a guy at this stage in his career would want. Not too fast.
Sets the table well for a lot to still be determined in this main event.
It does, and it sets the table for a lot to be said in the corners of both fighters. In the corners of the young Quillin, who's going to need something in his ear to tell him, hey, pick it up a little bit.
And now Quillin with a late surge to close out this fifth round. And speaking of closing out fifth round, such was the case with Miguel Cotto and Alfonso Gomez this past weekend. Teddy, there was just a big gap in talent and skill set and power in this matchup.
Well, this is one even I could pick right, because I did pick Cotto, and I said it simply because anything Gomez can do, guess what? Cotto could do better, and much better. You know, Gomez likes to punch the body. Cotto loves to punch the body, and he does it well. You know, Gomez likes to engage you. Cotto loves to engage you. Gomez likes to box every once in a while. Guess what? Cotto showed that in the Shane Mosley fight. He can box too.
And it now brings up Antonio Margarito against Miguel Cotto this summer, and this is a fight fans fight, Teddy.
Yeah, it really is. And before everybody, you know, runs and plucks it down on Cotto and says, oh, Cotto's the guy, he's undefeated and he's the hot flavor of the day, or more than just of the day, Margarito has some advantages too. He's the bigger guy. He's been at this weight longer than Cotto, who moved up from junior welterweight. He's a very seasoned guy. He's a very tough guy. He has the option of using those long arms and fighting on the outside, or tightening it up and bringing it into close quarters. So no walk in the park for Cotto. Should be a very interesting fight. One that I'm interested in seeing.
Echols missed with the right hand. Quillin comes back. Oh, a sweeping right hand by Peter Quillin.
Let's go.
Told you earlier, the heavy heart of Peter Quillin. Think about his mother who suffered a stroke. Echols been fighting with a heavy heart for years. Tragedy struck his family. His fiancée, Standisha Echols, suffered a cardiac arrest in 2004, and that has left her in a vegetative state. That's been a story we have focused on many times with Echols.
You know, you never want to, you know that commercial, never let them see you sweat. Never show that you're sweating. Well, if you're in that prize ring, you never want to show a fighter anything that he could get a little confidence or a little bit of a peek into your insides with. How you might feel. Just a moment ago, Quillin took a real deep breath. And Echols looked right at him and thought, gee, he's feeling being in the late rounds of a tough fight with a tough opponent for the first time. We'll see whether or not Echols, though, has enough left to do anything about it.
Well, Peter Quillin has never been past 8 rounds, and he's only been to the 8th round one time in his career. Of course, Antwun Echols has fought numerous 10-round fights and has fought for the world title 12-round fights. So we'll see if the experience and the distance starts to show itself.
You know, we said it at the beginning, huge step up in class for Quillin.
Right lead, and now a left hook. Staggers Echols and sends him back to the ropes.
But although it's a huge step up in class, Joe, as we've talked about, it's a calculated one with an old fighter who, of course, Quillin's people were bargaining would be a shadow of himself. In other words, the management team comes into play here, too. You know, when it's time to step up, you pick your spot. You want to get name value, but you also want to have an edge. And that's exactly what Quillin's people felt they had when they picked Echols.
Echols lands 2 right hands. Quillin catches him with a left hook and then a straight right. Coming to the end of round number 6 on Wednesday Night Fights. Antwun Echols coming off that